This call is now being recorded.
Screen is visible? Hello guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Screen is visible? Yeah. I think we had stopped in the earlier class, previous class. Here, voltage divider networks. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the voltage divider network basically, 1 second, it is echoing. Hello? I think now it is fine. So a quick recap. So we started with resistive, the conditioning networks for resistive sensors. Now basically, why do you require these conditioning networks, especially for resistive sensors, what you are studying here? Basically, most of our sensors are on the basis of resistance measurement, and they are easy for us because over a wide range we can use them. Plus, whatever the resistors are available with us, especially the metal or alloys or semiconducting type or the thermistors, all of them put together, we can use them over a wide range of applications. So naturally, when we measure different levels of resistors, say from few milliohms to several kilo ohms, when such is the range of applications, we require at least some kind of a refining or conditioning networks so that it suits the next stage of our sensing network, or it could be a simple data acquisition network. So for that, we have studied in the previous class the basic simple resistors, how they can be used, either a simple series limiting resistor or a parallel resistor connected in parallel or series with the sensing resistor, how it can be used for conditioning the signal. Now, in continuation with that, we'll go ahead with one more network, that is a simple voltage divider network, wherein which we divide the entire resistance into two portions, and part of here you can see the variable resistance is basically our sensor element. This in this chapter is represented by variable resistance, the sensor element. And there is one more resistor which is connected so that the entire network becomes a voltage divider. And from the other end of the sensor, we give it to some amplifiers. Here in this circuit, we have given it to an amplifier, but it can be given to either a analog to digital converter directly or to another network where the proper sensing of the voltage is made possible. Now here, a op-amp in an inverting mode is used. Now what is the advantage of this op-amp being connected here in the inverting mode? See here, whatever the voltage is sensed, we know in inverting mode, if it is increasing, the inverting mode output is going to give us the decreasing voltage. Similarly, if I want the direct proportional results, I can use it, the same voltage divider network, to non-inverting mode. So that whatever increase, that is depicted in the output as well in the same direction. Here it is in the opposite direction because it is connected to inverting terminal. So like this, we can make it whatever the output voltage either directly proportional by connecting to non-inverting terminal or inversely proportional by connecting to inverting terminal. So this is the advantage of using op-amp as an amplifier plus for inversion or direct voltage measurements. Now, similar to the divider network, the extended application of that is your potentiometer. Now, in the resistive sensors also, we have discussed this potentiometer, wherein which the entire potentiometer is connected to the voltage source, and the central or the variable or the tapping point is moved along the length of the potentiometer or the wire wound resistor. Now here what happens? The fraction which gets connected to the load or the output circuit or to the next block. Here actually what we measure across this is, suppose I am connecting a voltmeter here across RM. To the observer, it may look like it is just connected across RM, but whatever measurement we make as say VM, which is measured across RM, is not alone the voltage measured across RM. It is the voltage measured across the parallel combination of this RM with alpha into the potentiometer resistance R1, the portion of the potentiometer which is coming in parallel with RM. So the effective resistance of this circuit will be alpha RM, alpha R1 parallel RM. So the whatever voltage VM you measure, this will be not across RM alone, but it is across the parallel combination of RM and alpha R1. If the same network, if I convert it to Thevenin's equivalent, then what it looks like is this parallel combination gives me, see here you can check, actually 1 minus alpha into R1 plus alpha R1 gives me total resistance R1 or RT or whatever is the total resistance. So the Thevenin's equivalent circuit looks somewhat like this. Now whatever you measure here across RM is the measured value, but actual value will be the voltage measured across the parallel combination. So the error naturally is going to be introduced here. So the error introduced will be the measured value minus the VO. VO is nothing but the actual voltage which is across the parallel combination of the two parallel resistors. And this gives you the fractional error. If the same thing, if I multiply this with 100, this gives me percentage error. So error is basically the difference between the actual value and the measured value. So it can be positive or negative. Whenever the resistor parallel combinations are there, usually this will be negative because the measured value will be across the parallel combination. So it is going to give us the lesser value because the parallel combination of two resistors gives you the lesser value compared to the single value. So naturally the drop across that will be less than the actual. So remember this, the difference between the measured value and the actual value, and in some books it is referred as true value as well. So this gives you the absolute error, and divided by the actual value gives the percentage or the fractional error. If I multiply this fractional error with 100, this gives me percentage error. So understand these three error measurements. Now slightly, this is an improved version of the earlier one. Earlier we had only this combination and the tapping point. Now one more resistor gets added here, which is equal to this value Rm. By doing this, you are forming somewhat like a bridge combination. So the potentiometer, here these two form the two arms, and one more resistor which is connected forms the third arm, and fourth arm is the actual measured resistance. So by doing the bridge combination, you can minimize the non-linearity errors, usually induced because of the loading effect. The numericals on this, we will deal with them in the last few classes. After studying the entire theory portion, we'll deal with them so that your understanding of the amplifiers will be better, and also you can form the equivalent networks very easily. Now here, another combination where two voltmeters are connected and individually the voltages are measured across the two parts of the potentiometer. This also helps in minimizing the loading error. Now, what exactly this loading error is? See, loading error, what I mentioned there, the output circuit resistance, which comes in parallel with the part of the potentiometer resistance. So due to this parallel combination, effective resistance will be reduced. So this reduced effective resistance leads to some errors. So to minimize them, the bridge combination is the best, so that the ratio arms automatically, this loading resistor part gets eliminated. Now there are other measures which are taken, especially these wire connections, 2-wire, 3-wire connections are made basically to minimize the lead wire resistor effects. Now, why these lead wire resistors are very, very important here, or zero resistance leads are connected? Basically, we are interested in variation in the resistance in a sensor. Now, when you check the variation in the resistance, basically what happens? You don't understand whether the lead resistor temperatures are changing, because of that the resistance is varying, or is it because the sensor element is very active and there it is sensing properly. So one does not understand whether it is because of the self-heating or any functioning with to do with the lead resistors or the actual sensing part of the resistor. One doesn't understand. So to minimize such errors, the lead resistor compensation networks are designed. They are basically this 3-wire type resistors. Is it echoing? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Is it echoing there?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, you have logged in through two devices.
No, I have logged in through only one device. The other one I have switched it off. This presentation gives me one more screen. That I have offed it.
Actually, I can see like 3 devices. So,
Is it? One I have
yes,
logged
ma'am.
out now. Let me check again. My mobile, no, I just wanted to allow students. Today I had done the settings. 1 second, let me check. Yeah, now I am out of it. So here in 3 wires, basically what is happening here, these are nothing but the wires, or the wires here, the meaning of wires is basically the resistors. The low value resistors are nothing but the wires. Usually for all the ideal analysis, these lead wires or lead resistors are considered zero or negligible. But when the actual resistor value is very, very high in comparison to the lead wire resistors, only under such cases, these can be considered negligible for analysis. Otherwise, the contribution in actual measurement, the contribution due to these lead wires is also very, very high. So they may introduce some lead wire resistance errors, which in turn may give rise to lot of erroneous readings. So either some compensation to these lead wires is done, or it is seen to it that the lead wire resistors effect is cancelled if they are maintained in the ratio arcs. There are many mechanisms actually. We will see in the next unit, next part. So one of such compensation is through 3-wire circuits, where here you can check these are RW1, RW2 and RW3 are the 3 wires which are basically the lead resistors. Now here you can see the potentiometer as usual with alpha into R the resistance and 1 minus alpha into R the remaining part of the resistance. When the potentiometer is moved or the movable contact point is moved along this length, here naturally this lead wire resistance which is in series with the VM also gets added up. So when we measure this voltage VM, this part plus the resistance, this part also is coming into picture. Now one method to get rid of this is produce another voltage which is in opposite direction to this by producing a negative voltage in opposite direction to the actual voltage under measurement such that this effect is nullified. Otherwise, see that they fall in the ratio R, then cancel out that. So here you can see due to the compensation what is happening to the voltages, and without the compensation how the error is getting introduced. Now to minimize such errors only, the compensation networks are designed. Now actually what happens when we make use of op-amps, automatically these effects get nullified because the working principle of op-amp, because of its two, the minus and the plus terminals or the inverting and non-inverting terminals which work on the principle of the virtual short concept, automatically the effect of lead resistors is taken care of. We'll see how exactly that is achieved with the amplifiers and voltage dividers. Now here as usual the voltage divider network which is supplied with some source voltage, and this represents the sensor. The variable resistance represents the sensor. Now the output across the variable resistance is connected to non-inverting terminal. That means whatever is the change observed in the sensing element is directly proportional to the output. They are in the same direction. If this voltage is increased, the output is also going to increase because it is connected to the non-inverting terminal. Now how exactly this circuit works? So there is one more resistor which is connected, or the simple voltage divider, or even you can consider that it is part of your simple potentiometer also. Now here we know that this part between pin number, this inverting terminal to the output, this forms the feedback path. In the feedback path, there is a capacitance also connected. Now first, let me take this circuit without the capacitance. Then we'll see how exactly this helps in compensation, the impedance compensation. So the B circuit where in the op-amp you have a simple feedback resistor. Now here the voltage is connected and these are basically the current readers from the negative and the positive. IN are simply your emitters or current meters which read the current. This is the one which is used to read the voltage. Now what exactly happens here? When this is sensing, the output is directly connected to the positive terminal. Now by how much it should be amplified will be decided by this R2 by R1 combination. Because in op-amps, the feedback resistor is R2 in this case, from the output terminal to the inverting terminal, whichever is connected, the resistor that forms the feedback path. And this R1 from the ground terminal forms the input path. So the output or the feedback resistance divided by the input resistance gives me the gain of the op-amp. Now whatever voltage variations are there, they get multiplied by 1 plus R2 by R1 in the case of non-inverting mode. So if I have an input of 1 volt, which is given by the sensor or this variable resistive element, or basically a resistive sensor, the drop across that sensor is fed here to the non-inverting terminal, and the output will be V out is equal to V sensed voltage into 1 plus R2 by R1. If I have 1 volt at the sensing level or the sensor input, then 1 plus R2 by R1, if R2 is 10K and R1 is say 1K, then how much gain I get? 11 into whatever is the input. Here I have taken it as 1 volt. So 11 volts will be my output. So if your device which you connect in the next stage may be a analog to digital converter, that is simply ADC, you will be giving there 11 volts of input for ADC or analog to digital conversion instead of 1 volt. So naturally, your whatever quantum noise or quantum error plus the resolution can be much better with the help of your 11 volt output signal or 11 volt whatever is fed to your ADC. Okay, let me take you back to this network with the capacitor. Now, what exactly the capacitor is doing? In the feedback path, the capacitor is also connected. So now the gain is not simply R2 by R1 because the impedance of this network is going to be the feedback path impedance. So this can also be used very easily for all your resistive and other capacitive or inductive or AC signal amplification. Because of the capacitance. In the earlier amplifiers also we have seen the shunt effect of the capacitors, especially the coupling capacitors, which reduces the gain in the lower frequency and in the very high frequency region, that automatically gets reduced by connecting this capacitor like this. So this helps in improving the impedance levels of the op-amp. And automatically by improvising this impedance, the loading effects which we saw earlier, in some cases they are actually nullified. But by using this kind of op-amp networks, you can minimize the loading effects of the circuits. The next one, Wheatstone's bridge. Wheatstone's bridge, already we know it is a 4-arm bridge, where in which you have 2 ratio arms whose ratios are equal when the bridge is balanced. And when the bridge is balanced, the potentials at these 2 points, say at this point and this point, they are going to be equal because the ratio arms have the equal resistors. So this gives you null deflection when these 2 potentials are equal. What that means is there is no current flowing in this path, indicating null deflection. And whenever one of the arms, the value is changed, now we'll move to what, instead of connecting a known value resistors, in one of the arms, if an unknown resistor, say a sensor which is a resistive sensor is connected, then any variation in the resistance of this sensor brings the change in the potential differences. So this causes change in the ratio arms. One ratio arm is fixed and in the other ratio arm, it no longer remains equal. As a result, the potential at these 2 points changes. So which gives rise to some deflection in the galvanometer or the current meter which is connected here. So because of the potential difference, naturally some current starts flowing in this path. This gives rise to the deflection. This senses very low value resistance change as well. So this is a very sensitive device, and if all these resistors are highly lead compensated ones or good precision resistors, under such cases this kind of a bridge can be used for very high sensitive measurements. Now when I say lead compensated, to compensate the lead resistors or the resistance of the leads, especially in some cases if they are controlled by remote sensing, then naturally the leads are going to have longer lengths, not like our regular lab resistors. They are going to be in the form of wires. Actually here we are representing these as lumped resistors. Actually they are wires. So if the length of the wire is more, or remote sensing if it is happening, then naturally you require the compensation for the leads. So to do that, what is done is, here you can see one more resistor is connected to compensate for the leads, and the variable one is connected somewhat like this. So this, what it does actually, by connecting like this, automatically some part of the lead resistance is connected to one ratio arm, the other part is connected to another ratio arm. So automatically when it is getting distributed like this, in the ratio part, it gets cancelled. This is one way of simply managing with the lead resistors. See here, arrangement to cancel the effect of contact resistance. Just part comes in one ratio arm, the other part comes in the other ratio arm. So automatically the lead resistors will be compensated because they are in the ratio arm. So the balancing becomes easy, and partially it is on both the sides, so automatically it gets compensated. So simple arrangement like this can take care of lead resistors. Here you can see another type of arrangement where you have one potentiometer connected, and this is the actual sensor resistor. This is present in one of the arms, and in another arm you are connecting a potentiometer. Now potentiometer, how it is varied? To balance the bridge, the potentiometer resistance is varied such that again the null deflection is obtained, and whatever changes you have made with the potentiometer reading, that should match with that of the sensed resistor. That means in one arm unknown resistor, in the another arm the potentiometer is connected, and the value is adjusted in such a way that the null deflection is obtained. So this variation in this resistance or the potentiometer gives you the variation in the resistance of the sensor. So here double check happens. One you are measuring here, the other one directly you are measuring with the ohm meter how much is the resistance variation. This also helps in compensating the lead resistors. Now you can see here slightly different version of the circuit what we just now studied. Now what I mean by slightly different is here also you have the same bridge with the variation and one more. One arm is nothing but the sensor resistor. Now this, the two, instead of using the null deflection method, the output across this, wherever you were connecting the galvanometer or the current meter, that potential, those 2 points are connected to the differential amplifier of the op-amp. Now, what is the differential amplifier? Here actually, across these 2 points, due to change in the sensing resistor, some potential difference will occur whenever there is a change in the resistance of the sensor element. So this potential difference is now given to op-amp. You can see here the op-amp is in open loop mode, where we have seen in the open loop mode, if the input voltage difference crosses certain level, because this is going to have infinite gain, because of the infinite gain, what it is going to produce? On either side, it is going to have saturation levels, positive saturation and negative saturation. So here, if it is connected to plus 15 and minus 15, then you are going to have at plus 15 and minus 15 level saturation going to happen, and this is going to produce a pulse which is saturated at plus 15 and minus 15. And this is the result of your op-amp which is being connected in the open loop mode. Difference in the voltage here produces this kind of a waveform. If the difference is not produced, then this is going to give us what? Zero level. So basically the output of this is nothing but a digital output, either positive plus 15 or negative plus 15. Now this digital output is given here to analog converter. So DAC is used basically to convert this potential difference. Automatically this is converted to digital. This digital has to be converted to analog, which produces more precise values than measuring the potential difference directly across the bridge. Now how it minimizes the error? Here 4 resistors are there. Now these 4 resistors, due to self-heating or due to aging or due to ambient temperature effects, plus the connecting leads, if they are remotely sensed, all those effects can be nullified by converting that to plus 15 and minus 15 limits. Because you are no longer sensing here what? The actual levels. You are sensing only the saturation levels. Now here, this saturation levels, once they are sensed, these digital ones are converted to analog, and those analog readings can be now more precise than actually measuring the potential difference across the bridge. So this is another way to take care of the lead resistors and also the non-linearity of the measuring system. So this method is called comparison method. Now in this bit, we are going to see how exactly the Wheatstone's bridge can be used for the measurement of highly sensitive sensor voltages, or how actually the bridges can be used in sensitive instruments. So we know this basic equation where the ratio arm ratio is equal to some constant And in most of the cases, it is kept 1, such that any variation, it changes to some fractions, and that is resulted in the voltage difference here. So usually this is maintained at 1. And here you can see the typical bridge where the voltages are sensed. Okay, now this portion we have seen, and this if it is connected to op amp like this. Yeah. Now we can see directly the difference where actually the galvanometer is connected. Now the galvanometer is replaced by a op amp in differential amplifier mode. So by connecting this, you are forcing this to produce the proportional voltage or the saturation voltages. By changing the voltage level at the input end, it is very easy for us to make it attain the saturation. If the voltage level is within 15 volts, then you may not achieve the saturation levels. Otherwise, if you just see to it that this voltage level raises above the plus V and minus V level, then you start producing the digital output. Now slightly modified circuit is this, where in the feedback path, this sensor is connected and this non-inverting terminal is grounded. That means basically this is in the inverting mode where the feedback resistance is nothing but your sensor resistance, and the other part is connected to here. You can see here this is kept hanging, and we have seen earlier also that there is what is known as the virtual ground concept. So because of that virtual ground concept, this positive and this we are at the same ground potential. So when you use this parallel path comes into picture, and this network forms the input resistor. This resistance forms the input resistance, and this is how you sense the final output voltage of the bridge, where the ratio arms again they are maintained at 1, and any variation in this is depicted in the output form. So different combinations of this bridge can give very sensitive and good results. Slight variation of this we will see in the next class, where to compensate the lead resistors again here or the self-heating, one more parallel resistor is connected here. So that takes care of the self-heating process of the resistors, so that this device or the instrument in which this combination is used can be made more sensitive. Okay, this we will take up in the next class. Slightly, I need to give one more arm introduction here. So I will start this in the next class.